All right, so today we are continuing and finishing up the notes for section 3.1. So basically, what we're going to do now is put everything we've done so far together to allow us to solve polynomial equations. So we're going to have an equation such as this. And we're going to learn how to break it down. Like, we're going to use synthetic division and factor it out completely till we get to a quadratic equation that we can factor and solve. So the first thing we have to do is list all of our possible factors, right, with our P and Q. So remember, we've got P on the end, Q is going to be in front. So really, we're just worried about our factors of 24. So we have plus or minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12, 24. Right, and then for Q, it's just plus or minus 1. So really, our final factors of P divided by Q are just going to be this list. And remember, each of these are positive or negative. So now we have to look at our list and we have to find kind of a starting point. So we basically, this is the tedious part of this. No, there's not an easier way to do it. We have to just start plugging in numbers and find one that's going to equal 0. So like we did in the second part of that homework assignment, right? So start with smaller numbers, right? And remember, you've got positive 1, negative 1, positive 2, negative 2, positive 3, negative 3, right? You just have to do this to find one number that works. And once we have one, we can synthetic divide down. So you can really do this one of two ways. You can take the number and like plug it in. So we can, let's say we're going to plug in a positive 1. Right, so we can do like 1 to the 4th plus 2 times 1 to the 3rd minus 13 times 1 squared minus 14 times 1 plus 24. Work that out, see if it equals 0. Or if you want, which a lot of people prefer, you can just go straight to synthetic division. So we can just try to synthetic divide a 1 in. So like, if we're going to put our 1 in the box, so then we can bring down our coefficients, which are 1, 2, negative 13, negative 14, 24. So this is honestly my preferred method just because synthetic division is a lot easier to me. It gives you smaller numbers to work with. So you know that it will work if you get a 0 at the end. If you don't get a 0 at the end, then that means that's not going to be a possible answer and you can't use it. So we know that now that x equals 1 is going to be a solution to our equation. Because when we use synthetic division with 1 in our box, it gave us a 0 on the end here. So now we basically have to keep going until we get down to something smaller. So now we have, all right, I'm going to go to the next slide. All right, so all I've done is I took my coefficients from my synthetic division and I brought them into this polynomial, which again, technically you have to like find the factors of it again, right? But we know that we're dealing with those factors of 24, so that same list. All right, and again, we already know that 1 worked out. And so since we started with our highest powers x to the 4th, that means our equation is going to have 4 solutions. So now we have to just kind of pick another number and keep going. So let's try 2. And I'm going to bring down my coefficients. Right, So remember, bring down the 1. 1 times 2 is 2. 3 plus 2 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. Negative 10 plus 10 is 0. 0 times 2 is 0. We get negative 24. So that means that this does not work because we didn't get a 0 at the end. So let's try something else. Let's try negative 2, right? Because remember, we have negative numbers. So 1, 3, negative 10, negative 24. So bring down our 1. And 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. 3 minus 2 is 1. Times negative 2 is negative 2. Negative 12. Positive 24. 0. Look at that. So then now we have a polynomial. Right, so we know over here that x is also equal to negative 2. So then now we have x squared plus x minus 12 equals 0. So we know how to solve that, right? We can easily factor that. So factors of 12 with different signs that are going to give us a positive 1 would be x minus 3 and x plus 4. Oh, let's move this over a little bit. Equals 0. So then we just set our two factors that are left equal to 0. And so we get x equals 3 and x equals negative 4. And then those are the 4 solutions to our equation. So let's kind of recap. Step 1 is list all your possible solutions. Step 2, take some from those lists, start using synthetic division, and then you just have to work your way down until you get a quadratic. And then you should be able to factor that evenly. All right, let's do another example. All right, so again, step 1 is list your possible factors. So we're listing out our factors of 30. So we have 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 5 and 6. So now that we have this list, we have to just pick one and use synthetic division to see if it works. So let's start with 1. So our coefficients are 1, 1, negative 19, 11, and 30. So bring down our 1. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. 2 times 1 is 2. Negative 19 plus 2 is negative 17. Times 1 is negative 17. That is negative 6. And 30 minus 6 is 24, which is not 0. So that's not a solution. Let's try negative 1. Right, so you just have to try stuff. And it works. Typically, somewhere in those first few numbers, you're going to find something that works. So always start with the smaller ones. So again, we have 1, 1, negative 19, 11, 30. So 1, negative 1, 0, 0, negative 19. 30, negative 30, 0. All right, so now we know that x equals negative 1. So then we are going to, I'm just going to shrink that down so it's nice and out of the way. So now we're going to take this polynomial, which we now have as x to the third. I'm just going to go ahead and write my 0x squared in. Right, and so we're going to use those coefficients, right? And again, we're still using our factor list of 30 because that's what's right here. And so then we're going to have our coefficients of 1, 0, negative 19, 30, and we're just going to plug into our list again. So let's try 2. So 1 times 2 is 2, 2, 4, negative 15, negative 30. All right, so we've got this. And so now we have x squared plus 2x minus 15 equal to 0. So we're going to factor this. So factors of 15, that can give us 2. So we have 3 and 5. And we set those equal to 0. So x equals 3. And x equals negative 5. And we already knew that x equals 1 and x equals 2. So these 4 are our solutions to our problem. So it looks a lot scarier than it really is. You basically find your list of factors, start plugging those factors in for synthetic division, and just repeat that process until you're left with 3 numbers. And then you set it up like a quadratic equation and factor it, and then you're done. All right, so today all you have to do is watch the video. Tomorrow you're doing some of these on your own. So if you want to go ahead and start some of this today, I honestly would recommend it, because if you're skeptical about it, it's going to take some time. So, let me know if you all have any questions. Please let me know. I'm happy to help you. We can do a Zoom tomorrow, even if you feel like you need to. Oh, wait. Yeah. Or even on Friday, we can set up that Zoom call and do that if you guys feel like you need help. Just let me know.